All right, let's talk immigration reform here. And putting aside any talk of what's the right thing to do today, we're focusing on the dollars and cents when it comes to immigration reform. Trust me, you're going to hear a lot about the politics. Now, conservative group, one of the leading think tanks, the Heritage Foundation, came out with a report this week saying reform would cost $6.3 trillion, that's with a T, $6.3 trillion in entitlement and social program spending. That report, it was countered by the Progressive Leaning Center for American Progress. They say reform would add $1.4 trillion to the economy over a decade and more than a couple 100,000 jobs a year to boot. And it would boost the nation's tax base by about $185 billion over a 10-year period. For what it's worth, 71% of Americans say they support the reform that they're talking about, including that path to citizenship in the latest poll.
So we're only off by about $8 trillion in the numbers here between the two reports.
Now, Jim DeMint, many people remember him, the senator from South Carolina, really the Tea Party leader. He was one of the two authors of the report that came out from Heritage. And we mentioned the Progress report. Take us back to New York. And I know New York isn't emblematic of every state in America. Did you guys ever do the math if it was a net positive or negative if you legalized the folks, the kind of population, the illegal immigrant population currently, if you legalize them, what it would mean for the state's bottom line?
The analyses assume from the right that there'll be a lot of people using social services.
Yep.
And they tend not to balance against that the value of legalizing what is an underground economy right now. My guess is that this is going to be close to a wash, and that neither side will be able to rely on economic arguments for doing this right or wrong. The real question that it's going to come down to is this path to citizenship thing. It would seem to me that if you were a Republican and worried about anything other than enfranchising new voters, you would want to make these folks citizens as soon as you could. It would lessen the burden that they place on them. It would get them more involved in the American society, put a premium on learning English. When you see an argument, well, we'll have to wait 15 years. I think what it's turned into is a realization in the Republican Party that if these folks become citizens, they're not going to vote for these.
To answer Richard's question, but could I ask you though in this way, if you could answer, which was, I really thought after November, and I saw Reince Priebus when he gave the post-mortem, right, and he specifically talked about the need to broaden the pool here, and Latino voters were the big reason why what happened in November happened in November. And a lot of them, this is a Roman Catholic, this Catholic population here that on social values probably skews more Republican than Democrat that we're talking about with the Latino population. I thought this was going to happen. You got Marco Rubio who's going on point on this thing. Is it the Tea Party thing here, or is it the math issue that's making this such a hard slog for the right?
It's not the math issue. By the way, you asked Richard a question. He didn't want to answer it. The answer is no. In New York, they never look at the cost-benefit analysis.
I said we did, and it was in a wash. You may not
no,
like
you
the
said
answer,
you thought it was a wash. You did not say they looked at it. That was buried in it.
Don't get back
But the point, well, I was going to there. But when you look at the Republican Party right now, what we're talking about for immigration reform, Marco Rubio is leading the way right now. And trying to get it done, and he's working.
He's from the right, from the Tea Party.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say that when you've got various people, Haley Barbour is behind him on this and against Heritage at this point.
But there are Republicans in Congress who are looking to amend the immigration bill to
take away the path to citizenship.
Right, and also particularly to make it so that it can't be passed. So that it's
and there's also Democrats trying to do the same thing with Leahy. Leahy's trying to add.
That's not to try to scuttle the bill.
To add the issues
that's
too.
That's not designed to scuttle the bill.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. The
because
secondary effect of it may be to scuttle the bill.
But
there are Republicans who are looking to intentionally alter the bill so it can't pass.
What they want to do is have a vote.
I've heard a lot of Republicans say they're surprised by some of the elements that killed it when Bush tried to do it. Let's be fair. George W. Bush tried to get this thing through here, and he didn't get support from right. Again, some of the same forces are fighting it. Is it the Heritage folks, or is it others to say, I just can't accept it?
Don't make it easier for them to do this the right way. They are screwing it up again. One false move and I'll pull the trigger. Help them out here, will you?
Under Ronald Reagan, amnesty was granted. We all know that. That happened decades ago. We need to make sure there's a system in place so this doesn't happen again, and we do what's right and do it level one piece at a time and get it done. We don't
Translation
have
is
to
it's
have.
not gonna happen
We
if-
don't
if-
have to
yeah.
have 10 various things all put together at the same
My only
time.
point is politically, forget it right or wrong for the moment. Politically, I think the biggest losers if this doesn't happen are Republicans here, but we shall see.
We want it to. We want it to happen.
Yes,
Yes, we
a funny
do. There's
way
no
about
question
doing
about
it, though.
that.
All right, when we
Ronald
come
Reagan
back
was some
here,
liberal.
I got an interesting question I'm going to ask Dominic about it. The White House is talking about public housing here with time limits. Some people say in public housing, stay there for decades here, but the administration says maybe it's time we change that. We'll talk about that.